Ladies and gentlemen, you're welcome to this edition of the Inside of Equinoxe Television. I am Bablet Jonathan. We're coming to you from my headquarters in Cameroon's economic capital, Douala, the Senior Associate for African Regional Director of the Washington-based National Democratic Institute for International Affairs, NDI. Dr. Christopher Famio has decried the state of Cameroon's democracy. He says that the system has collapsed and is no longer functioning as it ought to. The Cameroonian, who has been regularly speaking about the situation in his home country, recently expressed his concerns, commenting about the political happenings in the country, with the tension prevailing in the country, the uncertainty prevailing as a result of the contested presidential election, the October 12 presidential election that has led to social unrest in the country, with Issa Chiruma Bakari maintaining that he won the presidential election while the President of the Republic, Paul Biya, has already been sworn in. We are looking at these happenings in the country. We are looking at where the Republic of Cameroon is driving to. We are looking at the possible future of the Republic of Cameroon, a future that can either be made or marred by the current happenings in the country, with the risk of social unrest, with some inhabitants, a fraction of the population at the extreme end determined to fight for democracy, determined to fight for what they qualify as the truth of the ballot box, the victory, or better still, the stolen victory of Issa Chiruma Bakari, while the President of the Republic is now calling on Cameroonians to come together in order to build the nation. But we're looking at the feasibility of that call. We are looking at how possible it is for Cameroonians to work together with the current government to build a nation, while there are cries of injustice, there are cries of violation of human rights in the country. Stay with us and meet our guest in some few seconds. We begin this edition of The Inside with an outburst of anger over the situation in the Republic of Cameroon, notably with regards to what is qualified as gross violation of human rights in the Republic of Cameroon. And we spoke to Kabanwala Edith, National President of the Cameroon People's Party and member of Stand Up for Cameroon Civil Society platform. This is what she had to say, and she's bringing forth some figures with regards to the number of persons who have been arrested and detained in different incarceration centers within the context of the protest that emanated from the October 12, 2025 presidential election in Cameroon, and the number of persons who have died, figures that contradict those from government, notably from the Ministry of Territorial Administration, while the Minister of Territorial Administration is talking about at most 20 persons killed in different towns of the country. The Stand Up for Cameroon Civil Society platform and the group of lawyers, the College of Lawyers who are defending the detainees, the persons arrested and detained within the context of the post-election protest, are talking about more than 30 persons who have been identified to have been killed, notably by a bullet from the guns of law enforcement, officers of law enforcement. And of course, the number of persons who are being detained is significantly higher than what the administration is presenting. What the administration is talking about, a little about 1,500. The civil society, notably Stand Up for Cameroon Civil Society platform, and the College of Lawyers defending the detainees, is talking about more than 2,000 persons who are in different incarceration centers across the country. Let's take a listen to Kabanwala Edith.
Forces of law and order, forces that we are supposed to ensure our security, coming to people's houses in the middle of the night, picking people up on the street anyhow, why are they masked? Why are they coming in masked when they are coming to arrest citizens? Since this post-electoral crisis started, nobody has been found with a stick not less of a gun. We are not talking about people who are armed. We are not talking about people who can be harmful. We are talking, in many cases, they have children, minors. In Yaoundé, in Douala today, we still have 38 minors in detention. In the extreme north, 16. We have in Betua, we are having minors. So the law does not allow this. The law does not allow you to arrest a minor and detain them in the same place with adults. We have reports of torture. We have reports of people being in detention, and we know this system of torture. We have even seen it in videos. This whipping of the soles of your feet with a cutlass. We have seen it over and over again in Cameroon. It must stop. At the level of standing for Cameroon, we have at least 38 names of people who were killed by the forces of law and order. We have not heard any word from government about how they are, what kind of inquiry they are opening up. Who gave the order to shoot? Who gave that order to shoot? These were people who had no guns. These were people who gave that order for live bullets to be used. The Collective for Citizens Defense is giving us figures of 1,900 plus detainees. So almost 2,000 people, at least. We say at least because we are well aware that these are the ones we have been able to visit, we have been able to identify. There are more. There are more. And this is unacceptable.
You're welcome back. Thank you for staying with us now. Joining us from the nation's political capital, Yaoundé, Professor Elvis NGOLE. He is a political scientist, former member of government, and of course, the coordinator of the Cameroon People's Democratic Movement, CPDM political party, political academy, and he joins us from the nation's political capital, Yaoundé. Professor, welcome to the program. Now we begin with this first question in a context of post-election tension, anger, frustration. President Paul Biya, in one of his recent social media messages, called on Cameroonians to come together to build the nation. Now, please give us an understanding of the head of state's stand in this context of uncertainty and post-election tension.
You can respond to that question from a philosophical standpoint. You can respond to that question from a practical standpoint, but I would like to combine the both. Philosophically, the president is right, and I agree with the president that it is time to move ahead because we are at a moment in our nation's history where we can't afford to make ourselves victims of the past. We can't afford to allow the past to drag us down or to stop us from using the energies, the God-given energies and the God-given brains and intelligence to build towards a better future. We can't afford to make ourselves victims of a past that is gone. That past has its own values. That past is in our memories. That past is a lived experience. That past is a lesson to all of us. But that past cannot make us become victims. So the president is right philosophically. The president is right politically. The president is right pragmatically. A people, citizens that we are, 30 million of us, who are all builders of the nation in the spirit of the founding fathers, we can't afford to say, oh, because elections took place on the 12th of October, as they will take place on the 30th of October, we should stop and continue talking about the election. Or because something happened 5 years ago, or 10 years ago, or 20, we should stop and keep talking on that. No, we can't do that. We are builders of the nation. We are patriotic citizens. We are optimists. We are not pessimists. We are the generation of optimism, and that is why, if you take the slogan that the President Biya used during the October 12th presidential election, it was that he was a candidate of grandeur, and that this septenate, or this mandate, 7-year mandate, would be a 7-year mandate of greater hopes or greater expectations, if you want. In other words, the president, in appealing to us to move on, to move forward and keep going, the president is a leader of hope. The president is a leader of a future that is bright. The president is that is true leadership, when you lead your people towards a future that, according to you define as being a future of grandeur, a future of greater hopes or greater expectations, rather than being victims of yesteryears or victims of the past. We can't allow the past to make us victims of the present, or to mortgage our chances and our opportunities for the future. So the president's campaign slogan was right, and that's why I agree with the president. But if you also look at the manifesto of President Biya during the last election of October 12, presidential election, that manifesto was couched in about 11 points. And if you even look at the speech that he made during the oath-taking on November 6th, you see that the two tie. The manifesto, in its 11-point order, as it was outlined, portrays or traces or presents a picture of a Cameroon with a bright future, with a future of grandeur, with a future of great hopes. And that is what you see in the manifesto, and that is what he announced in his oath-taking speech on November 6th, that we should expect in this new mandate, in the present mandate that has begun, to see a Cameroon of grandeur, meaning a Cameroon of greatness, and a Cameroon of greater hopes.
Now, do you think it is right to move ahead with people who are still angry, who are still crying over injustice, over a stolen victory, according to Issa Chiruma Bakari and a good number of Cameroonians who are saying that the truth of the ballot box is that Issa Chiruma Bakari won the October 12th presidential election? Is it wise to keep moving ahead, to progress with this situation on ground? Will all these problems not become an impediment, an obstruction to efforts to build the new Cameroon you're talking about?
Life itself is a risk. Life as we know it, as we live it, is full of risks. Therefore, it is a risk. And that is why, from a philosophical standpoint, or from a political standpoint, the President of the Republic, as candidate in the last elections, gave us reason not to fear, gave us reason not to be frustrated, gave us reason not to be pessimistic. The President of the Republic, in his capacity as candidate of the CPDM in the last presidential election, which he won, as you know, with almost 54% of the vote, gave us reason, because the slogan was, think of a Cameroon of grandeur, think of a Cameroon of greater hopes. And in the manifesto that he presented during that election, which was about 11 points, there are all the ingredients for all of us, 30 million, no matter who we may be, not to feel frustrated, or we should be able to overcome our frustrations. We should be able to overcome our fears. We should be able to not to fear to take risks, because life itself is a risk. You must take risk. As someone said, there's a saying, where there's no risk, there is no gain. You know, the president has appealed to us during his campaign, and he announced during his oath-taking speech on November 6th, don't fear, don't be frustrated, have hope in a Cameroon of grandeur, in a Cameroon of greater hopes. Therefore, as your question says, yes, we agree based on the results of the election, but in every election or in any election, there are always results, and those results are a reality. Those results are not only legitimate, those results are legal, those results are constitutional, and those results are a reality. And those results are numbers which should not make us divided, or which should not make us sick, or which should not make us frustrated. Therefore, in the president's inaugural speech on November 6th, there was a phrase that he made which said, this is the moment of rassemblement. That's a powerful philosophical statement for a nation that, that needs healing, for a nation that needs to strengthen its living together, for a nation that needs to remind itself of its the moral obligation and imperative for national concord, national cohesion. President Biya is the epitome, is the incarnation of a Cameroon of grandeur, a Cameroon of greater hopes, a Cameroon of greatness, let's put it this way.
What do you tell Cameroonians who think that, contrary to what you're saying, that President Paul Biya is the incarnation of hope, the incarnation of greatness, that he is rather the incarnation of failure, the incarnation of poverty, the incarnation of misery, the incarnation of bad governance, the incarnation of shame?
No, for those who reason along those terms or in that manner, obviously this is the reasoning of those who have decided or have opted to be pessimistic or to be pessimists. And as you know, philosophically, I belong to that school of thought whereby we see Africa in terms of Afro-optimism. That is to say, an Africa which sees the future in terms of opportunities, in terms of openings, in terms of achievements, in terms of possibilities. The president is someone who is, by character, by nature, by his policies, by his temperament, positive. And he wants his country, he wants his countrymen beyond our frustrations, beyond our disagreements, which are natural, to overcome these and be men and women of values, men and women of virtue, men and women that are positive, constructive, ready to build, ready to go ahead, ready to forge ahead, ready to overcome, ready to conquer. So when you ask the question, how does this disagreement, how can we come together in the face of these disagreements? The first answer I'll give is that let us count on the president. We are sure of a leader, of a president who is our greatest inspiration. He is calling on us not to allow ourselves to be victims. So we can count on our leader, a leadership vision, and a leader who is there for us saying, don't allow yourself to be victims. Don't allow yourself to be wounded. Don't allow yourself to be frustrated. But these are normal things that happen in every society. But in Cameroon, the Cameroon that he considers to be a God-given the land of promise. Don't forget, in our national anthem, Cameroon is a land of promise, the land of glory. There's nothing less than that for President Biya.
Prof, will it not be better to settle the disagreements, to solve these problems, provoking anger and frustration across the Republic before moving forward?
We have a president in the person of President Biya. You can see that he is in line. If you look at his political philosophy, if you look at his policy actions or public policies, if you look at even the announcements, if you look at his public manifesto during the campaign and the announcements during the November 6th speech, inaugural speech or the oath-taking speech.
What do you think about suggestions that a truth, reconciliation and peace come together, be organized to deal with all the problems emanating from the October 12th presidential election?
You see, Mr. Babila, by definition, dialogue is a global term. It's a global concept. And by definition, dialogue in concept does not end, never ends. Particularly in a democracy, particularly in a republic such as ours, dialogue never ends. It simply moves from one event to the other. It simply moves from one context to the other. You know, recall, during his November 6th inaugural speech, President Biya referred to what is referred to as communal dialogue. In other words, many people see dialogue as if from the standpoint of an event, it's an event. But dialogue is much more than just an event. Yes, it's an event, but it's more than just an event. The dialogue that took place in 2019 continues in different contexts, in different formats. And the fact that dialogue is a continuous process does not preclude and does not deny or exclude the fact that you can add the component of peace, reconciliation, and whatever. Because that's exactly what dialogue is meant to bring about. Dialogue is meant to bring about peace. Dialogue is meant to bring about reconciliation. Dialogue is meant to bring about truth. So, if indeed, because from what having taken part, I was one of the vice presidents of one of the 8 commissions of the National Dialogue, and I recall that lots of truths were spoken. And nobody was locked up for speaking the truth. Lots of truths were spoken. And were spoken by men and women of value, men and women who were men and women Cameroonians. They were not foreigners. We were amongst us ourselves. They spoke the truth. So some truths were spoken. But maybe all the truths were not spoken. There's nothing wrong with us. There is still time. There is still Cameroon. It's our Cameroon. It's a Cameroon of all of us, for all of us. And everything we do, we should do it as something by all of us. And therefore, if we think that more truths have to be said, because no one can say that some truths were not said in 2019, I was present. I participated. Lots of truth. Mr. Babala, you ought to have been present in the tripartite meeting of 1991 at Palais de Congrès. Lots of truths were said by men and women of caliber you cannot believe. So many truths were said, but we've lived through those truths and lots of good things have come about in our Cameroon.
Now let's go to the newsstands, and we're taking a look at what the newspapers reported this week. This is the press review. Daily Voice reports that anger is boiling in Wum in the crisis-stricken northwest region of Cameroon after herders slaughtered a farmer. The paper says one more killing too many with suspected land-grabbing intent. According to municipal updates, blackout swallows major neighborhoods in Boya. Some parts of the city have gone for months without electric energy supply. The Guardian Post reports that ahead of end-of-year festivities, the Minister of Territorial Administration of the Republic of Cameroon, Atanganji Paul, has ordered governors of the 10 regions to step up vigilance. And Cameroon Insider says a regional election end-of-year feast, governors to stay on high alert. Territorial Administration Minister Paul Atanganji gave the directives to the regional executives during their second biannual meeting, which ended in Yaoundé, November 26. As reported by the Post-Weekender, during the Governor's Conference, Minister Tanganji Paul said all those who supported Issa Chiruma Bakari in what he referred to as a vast plot against the Republic will be prosecuted. Another issue of the Guardian Post tells its readers that Dr. Fomunyo weeps for Cameroon's failing democracy. The Senior Associate for African Regional Director of the Washington-based National Democratic Institute, NDI, Dr. Christopher Fomunyo, has decried the state of democracy in Cameroon, arguing that the system has collapsed and no longer functions as it should. The Cameroonian, who has been regularly consulted on issues of governance by several African heads of state, expressed the regret recently while commenting on Cameroon's political trajectory. The Voice 2026 Finance Bill reaches Parliament, diming its culture proceed. The bill was submitted to Parliament in violation of the stated deadline. Lawmakers rushed to scrutinize, adopt Francieve 8,816.4 billion budget amid fiscal overhaul. Budget bill needs 1,000 billion in external loan to cover skyrocketing deficit and arrears. Francieve 50 billion special fund allocation for women and youth. The bill reveals a massive expansion of the state's fiscal ambition, prioritizing investment, social welfare, and structural reforms in an effort to accelerate development despite a volatile global landscape. And Municipal Update says Prime Minister Chief Dr. Joseph Jangute outlines government's 2026 priorities. He did so at the National Assembly. The Horizon reports International Anti-Corruption Crusader Barrister Keremuna's shocking revelations on Cameroon's stolen golden empire. In another article, the paper projects Professor Rose Leke, honored by Equatorial Guinea for her outstanding contribution to improving quality of human life. When you look through your lenses, when you scan through the current situation of the country, the happenings in the country, do you have concern? Are you concerned about the possibility of a nation falling into a chaotic situation?
No, first of all, to be candid with you, I see Cameroon through the lens of a patriotic, positive, optimistic African who loves his country, meaning the country of his mother and his father. Cameroon is my fatherland, or my motherland, if you want to say. And that is an act of God. If I decide that I want to see Cameroon in negative terms, in pessimistic terms, it's tantamount to questioning God or my parents. I can't do that. That would be immoral of me. And I think we try to stay moral. Therefore, from that standpoint of a positive, optimistic, patriotic Cameroonians, I see a Cameroon not of what your question suggests, of chaos. Chaos is out of the picture. I see rather a Cameroon where, as it has been the case in the last 65 years, we overcome our frustrations, we overcome our fears, we overcome our incomprehensions, we overcome our weaknesses, and we push on, we carry on in togetherness. Because one, and I say so for the following reasons. Not only because I am by nature, character, philosophically, training, education, an optimist. I'm one of those who can call himself a disciple of the political philosophy or the political vision of President Biya. I was a young PhD university student in an American university, the University of Denver, in Colorado, in the United States of America, when President Biya took power in 1982. And at that time, those of us, as young as we were, who were doing doctorate degrees in political science, international relations, we were attracted by this new model or this new personality, or this new form of leadership in America, in Africa, that President Biya incarnated. He was a leader of openness. He was a leader of freedom. He was a leader of human rights. He was a leader of a future of creativity. He remains so. And having observed it, having been attracted since when I was young, as soon as I got my PhD from the University of Denver in the United States, I returned to Cameroon. I said, no, as a Cameroonian, let me also come and do my little part because we have a new leader. So I'm not only saying that I'm seeing a Cameroon of great hopes, greatness, and great achievements, of great expectations and so forth, because of not only my own philosophical character, but I see also the fact that we have a leadership in the person of President Biya, a leadership which is based on a philosophy of bringing people together, them, in spite of their diversity and their heterogeneity, but making them work together, live together in national concord.
So how do you see Cameroon in the future?
I see a Cameroon following, as I say, the manifesto of the president in the last, when he was a candidate, and the speech he made during his oath-taking ceremony on November 6th. I see that Cameroon of greatness, of great hopes, in 5 areas. 1, I see a Cameroon where decentralization will be highly strengthened, whereby the local councils and the regional assemblies or regional assemblies will be stronger and stronger than they have been in the past. They will have more powers, more competencies, more means, and local development and local democracy will be brought about very, very easily. This is what I see as far as the organization and the functioning of the state is concerned, that you'll have a decentralization that is highly strengthened and that will bring about greater local development, greater local democracy, greater local participation, and the people in the regions, in their local councils and in their regions will be direct participants, and they will see more. That is why it doesn't surprise me that the regional elections are just around the corner, and in the next few months we're going to have the legislative and the municipal elections. The second thing I see about this Cameroon of grandeur, of greatness, is I see that there will be greater struggle and a greater fight against corruption, a greater struggle and a greater fight for greater probity, greater accountability, greater rigor. I see that Cameroon because based on, as I say, based on the manifesto that he campaigned on and the speech and the announcements he made in that speech, the third thing I see in that Cameroon of greatness is we're going to see more improved infrastructure. More improved infrastructure in terms of roads, more improved infrastructure in terms of water, in terms of electricity, in terms of health, in terms of education, in terms of communication. We're going to see this in this new Cameroon. And the fourth thing I see is that because he announced it, we're going to see more youth and women empowerment. You recall in his oath-taking ceremony on November 6th, he did announce solemnly that he's going to pay particular attention on the youths, and he announced certain things which you can enumerate. He announced new recruitments in the professional schools of ENS and SET, new recruitments into the doctoral programs, and he announced a new plan for youth employment. And he also announced certain administrative facilities that will be brought about to make it easier for young people to have access to financing as far as if they want to set up businesses or enterprises. These are things which are in the pipeline that I see in the area of youth and women empowerment. And the last thing I see is that I see a Cameroon where there will be lots of political and institutional reforms. These political and institutional reforms can take the form of bills in parliament, can take the form of decrees or other rules.
Prof, how will you persuade Cameroonians who have been waiting for these things you're talking about, who have been waiting for their living conditions to improve, who have been working so hard but hindered by bad governance, hindered by corruption, hindered by embezzlement of public funds, hindered by all these ills from improving their living conditions for the past 4 decades? How will you persuade them now that the situation is going to change?
All they have to look at Cameroonians is belief. First of all, Cameroonians who either are pessimistic or they are still suffering from some frustration or some, which is normal. I'm not saying that they're wrong for expressing frustration or that's just natural. What I would say to them is, in line with what I'm saying, is that all they have to do is first believe in their country. In other words, there should be a new patriotism, renewed patriotism. Believe in the country of your father and mother. Secondly, count on and watch. I've given 5 areas. 1, decentralization. 2, fight against corruption. In other words, in terms of accountability, probity, and rigor. 3, infrastructure. 4, more youth and women empowerment. And 5, reforms. Reforms in terms of the functioning of the state. Political reforms, institutional reforms. Watch these. These are indices I'm giving you so that you don't say that I'm just being, it's not propaganda. I'm not being a propagandist. I'm giving you indices. All of us have to watch these indices. But these indices are not, if we decide to be pessimistic, if we decide to be blind or to continue to be victim, make yourself a victim and be pessimistic, well, of course, you may ignore or deny these indices. All I have to do is watch. But for that to happen, help yourself first. Overcome. You must love your country first. If you don't love something, hey, you don't expect that whatever happens there, that you look at it. Show love for your country. Because God did not make a mistake. Your parents, your mother and father did not make a mistake. If you don't love your country, what you are saying is that God made a mistake or that your mother and father made a mistake. And you know something? God never makes a mistake.
Looking at the current situation of Cameroon, looking at the ills in our society today, ills like corruption, embezzlement of public funds, mismanagement, and all kinds of ills in our society today, Cameroonians feel that those who are governing them do not love their country. Though they are preaching patriotism, they are not patriotic. This is what many Cameroonians think. Now, from your point of view, do the leaders of this nation love their country, love Cameroonians? Do they?
No, my answer is simple. I think most Cameroonians, including the leaders, love our country. That's why our country, in 65 years, has been able to be up and going. It's a successful, independent, sovereign state. So, and what has made it so is not because of other countries, it's we ourselves, 30 million of us. It is not someone else who has made us 65 years stand all the wins and the troubles and the inconveniences and the challenges. We've made it. We are working at it. You know, independence, we were taught in political science. You know, in the beginning, at the end of colonialism, there were those who thought that independence, or self-determination if you want, even though people are abusing the phrase self-determination, people thought that independence meant a sort of libertarianism, or what they call liberticide, so do anything you want, sort of laissez-faireism. No, independence doesn't mean that. You can read all the books in international relations, whether history of international relations or political science you want to read. Independence does not mean necessarily that you should be, it's a laissez-faireism, you are free to do what you want to do, you are so free. No, it doesn't mean that. Independence means responsibility. Independence means hard work. Hard work. You must work. Independence means constant striving, constant reasoning. Let us, I admire, I'm one of those who thinks when you go to China, I look at the Chinese society and I'm amazed that this is a society, a nation where people work, believe in work. We must believe in work. Work is not punishment. Work is hard. But work is responsibility. Work is freedom. Work is independence. Any independence without freedom, without responsibility, without work is not independence. It is a sort of... And so we have to believe that many Cameroonians are responsible. Many Cameroonians are working. That's why in 65 years, we have been able to build what we have built. We are not a failure. Cameroon is not a failed state. So that in itself tells you that. And Cameroon is not a failed state because of foreigners. It is Cameroonians themselves who are the authors, who have worked hard to keep this state going. And President Biya has continued in that tradition. That's why I keep telling you, we should clap for each other. We should give ourselves some credit. Many Cameroonians love their country. They want it to succeed. They want Cameroon to succeed. And that's why we are where we are. Sure, I agree with you, because you have mentioned a few. There are a few, really a few, who in their either mischief or in their irresponsibility or in their ignorance, you could also say that, might have fallen foul and engaged in certain acts which are considered either illegal, or you may consider a betrayal of love of country through their acts, either because you use the word they embezzled, or they engage in mismanagement of some sort of whatever. But again, these are ills of every human society. Cameroon is no exception. But the percentage of those who engage in this sort of what you can call misdemeanor, or what you can call deviance, social deviance or public deviance, is really very small. You cannot use, if you look at statistically or scientifically, the number of persons engaged in this sort of deviance or misdemeanor is very little compared to the 30 million Cameroonians.
We're going to take a short break, time for us to bring to you interviews of the week.
Two days before the convention, we received a ban from the sub-prefect of Yaoundé 4. We want to clarify the public, especially with regards to such a ban. We have been informed that there had been a request from one of our ex-militants, Mr. Okala Ebode, that was excluded from the party by the competent organ of the party, that is the National Commission in charge of arbitration and mediation. So, honestly speaking, he can no longer act on behalf of the political party which we incarnate as the CRM. After the arbitrary disqualification of Professor Maurice Kamto, candidate to the 2025 presidential elections by Elecam through maneuvers from Minat and the Constitutional Council, we think that they are continuing with such a persecution on the CRM. So this is too much, and the CRM is not going to bear that anymore.
It is repeated violation of civil and political rights, which is an infringement, of course, of the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, a charter that was signed and ratified by Cameroon. That is not only a treaty that was signed, but constitute part of our constitution, because in the preamble, it is clearly stated that those international treaties that are signed and ratified by Cameroon, they take precedence even over domestic law. How do we show the international world that we are democratic? We're just coming in from a situation where elections are being contested, and that the international community has still not settled on, and then you are banning the meeting of a political party.
Now, coming up in this edition of The Inside, we spoke to an international education leader. He is also identified and qualified as a mentor, as a catalyst. Akaba James is the country director of Open Dreams, and he's praised for the great impact he's been bringing upon the lives of scholars, notably young scholars. And now we are discussing with him how to enhance education, how to facilitate international education, how to help young Cameroonians achieve their educational dreams, their professional dreams. Akaba James, you are the country director of Open Dreams in Cameroon, and you just received an award that recognizes your long-standing leadership in international education and the impact you're making on young scholars across Cameroon and even beyond. Take us into what you have been doing. What have you been doing as far as leadership in international education and impacting young people is concerned?
Thank you so much, Jonathan, Babila, and the crew. We are so fortunate to receive you today at Open Dreams in Yaoundé. The co-founders are Americans, Christina and Hans Kohlberg. They are in California. And Blaise Boma, who happens to have been one of us in GBHS Bameda then, who went to the U.S. thanks to the sponsorship of an American, Lewis Morgan. And once he got to the U.S., and I myself, I was fortunate to have been sponsored by the U.S. Embassy, the U.S. State Department, to the U.S. on a Fulbright Teaching Excellence and Achievement Program. So over in the U.S., we saw a lot of opportunities that we could open up for the young people. And the Americans, you know, with this passion to see human potential develop, from there, Open Dreams came to birth in all the top universities of the world. In every area of youthful endeavor, in every area of innovation, you find Open Dreams scholars striving. You find Open Dreams scholars doing their very best. Here in Cameroon, almost every competition you find organized when it comes to creativity, often you find the first 3 winners, they are often Open Dreams scholars.
I've listened to a lot of people praising you for the impact you brought in their lives as a physics teacher. And they are very passionate about this when they're talking about how you taught them physics with a lot of passion and so on, and helping them to understand some of the things that were quite tough, making it simple for them.
Yes, when I studied physics, a lot of the things we were reading about physics were kind of foreign, like most of the great inventors. We couldn't find Africans among them. I was like, this is our time. We need to make a bigger mark so that Africa can have a greater presence in physics. And that could come through making sure that the teaching in class is effectively done, and not only within the class, we make sure that the students can go very far. I'll take a quick example. While in class, we solve all the most difficult problems. We did a whole lot of things. But the moment we step out of the class, we find roads with potholes. We find garbage all around. We find a lot of real problems that were not getting solved. But in the class, we could solve almost every problem. So we started looking into it. How do we translate knowledge from the classroom into the society? If the West has developed and they are teaching the same concepts in physics, why are we not getting developed here? So through that, we realized that if we could expand opportunities, if we could help students to have pathways to study at the heart of where development is taking place, at the heart of where some of these innovative ideas are being realized, then they can come home and change the story for Cameroon, change the story for Africa, change the narrative for all of us, because we believe better societies will mean we have better lives, we have long lives, we have greater fulfillment.
From your findings, what was hindering many of the students at that time, and is still the case even today, to find that pathway to be able to study in those environments where innovation is thriving, where development is thriving, where things are going quite faster?
Yeah, first thing, our educational system is not really structured in a way that supports students who have a plan to study out of the country. For instance, the concept of guidance counselors on university admissions, almost no high school, government institution has that in Cameroon. And then also, the funding for those programs is very rare to find. Like you don't find, in fact, in countries like Botswana, when you perform, when you are on honor roll, you go into what they call the presidential list, meaning that you have the allowance or the provision to study in any country of your choice, anywhere, any program, and the government pays for it. So those are programs that are very difficult to find here. To get a scholarship, you need to go the extra mile. And people don't dedicate time to help students in such pathways. So we identify such a big gap. We realize that instead of just praising students who have 25 points or who perform very high, we should have an environment like a culture where they come spend 1 year, 2 years, developing their leadership skills, and from there they can conquer the world. And today, as we're talking, as I said, all the great institutions of the world, there you count 1, 2, 3 opening scholars. And they are not just going to those institutions, they are going there on full scholarships, from high school students right to those doing the PhD. We are lucky under the Early Access Network to be a nominating agency for the Commonwealth Scholarship. And because of that, we have a lot of medical doctors studying in the US. We have people in technology. We are also a part of the MasterCard Foundation Network. More than 100 open-name scholars are studying all over the world under the MasterCard Foundation Scholarship. And what is it about? They pay their flight, they get them laptops, they have a monthly allowance, and almost every holiday they're here in Cameroon. And when they're coming here in Cameroon, they're not coming as spectators. They're coming with projects, they're coming with programs to help, and they are very active in about 6 regions of Cameroon where we have open-name hubs. So we are witnessing a new era of consciousness, of people being very happy going to school, of people achieving, and a lot of them, when they finish their studies, they're getting very good jobs. So they become, in fact, they live a life, they live dream lives, I should say that. And we are happy to see this really happening. And Open Dreams, the idea got started, we never knew that 10 years we will be at this level. Right now, we are being celebrated in the US almost every year. We have won so many awards. The ones that have been awarded to me and the ones that have been awarded to a lot of other open dream scholars. So we are a community of champions, thanks to how far we can go driving, educational access for people to really develop their potential. We're here, open dreams. Here in Cameroon, people could go to universities and study just limited subjects in those universities. So we wanted people to really pursue what they are passionate about, because we believe that through that, they can be very effective at work, they will love what they do, and they can create the maximum impact.
Tell us a little more about what you have been doing as a leader in international education, what you have been doing to bring impact upon the lives of young scholars, because this is all what this whole issue is about impacting lives of people who in turn impact lives of communities.
First thing, every summer, we recruit the best students from the O level, from the advanced level. They come together and they attend the Open Dream Summer Academy. For those that may not have a chance to attend, they are able to attend the Open Dreams College Orientation. For people who already have a degree, they attend the Open Dreams Graduate Summit. And through all of this, they get the right training and they are positioned for scholarships. And for them to gain those scholarships, they need to actually identify community challenges, go into addressing them, and work very hard and build a portfolio. They have a sense of direction. And when they have these opportunities, they go out there and they often perform on top of their classes. And because they perform very well, many others are able to follow. And those that are out there, they're expected to give back. So they come back and participate in the Summer Academy. They run programs in the field and they help those that are seeking mentorship to participate. And through that way, we have a spiral of growth. We have people really doing so much community engagement and helping, because we see countries like America, they develop because a lot of people are taking responsibility for community action. And we see that now happening at Open Dreams, and such a model is really, it stands out. It stands out because it's not only about education for community impact.
Now, tell us about the impact of that on a country like Cameroon.
So let me take a quick example, like we have the Viva initiative at Open Dreams. That has to do with research and education on maternal mortality, on congenital anomalies. So through that, they are educating young people to not just jump into parenthood. Before they jump into parenthood, they know how to prevent childbirth that comes with defect or that lead to maternal mortality. And Cameroon is one of the countries with the highest rate of maternal mortality. Because we have medical doctors, we have ambitious students, we have organizations that are sponsoring some of these programs, we are driving that human development, we are driving such initiative in the field, and we are hoping that that can improve the human development index in Cameroon, because again, it remains one of the lowest in the world.
And of course, bring down the maternal mortality.
Yes, we bring down the maternal mortality rate, the neonatal mortality rate as well.
All right. Tell us about your award.
Yes, Going the Extra Mile award is a very rare award. I believe I am the first African to have had that award, and thanks to Open Dreams, the community of champions, thanks to the co-founders in the US who burn out the midnight candle to make sure that this organization goes well. And so this award is given to, in fact, the International ACC is a global organization with about 4,000 members, members who are active from everywhere. So to win that award, you need to really stand out in what you do. So because of the much, in fact, I've presented in many conferences out there, and our scholars who have spoken, we are involved with many committees within the International ACC. And because we distinguish ourselves in the quality of products that we bring on board, this award has come. So this is like the third international award. We have just one more award to win and would have reached the highest level, and that award is a Lifetime Achievement Award. And having had the three in the previous years, I believe that a little bit more effort with the community will go on. And if I had a message to pass, to our community back in Cameroon, we pray that students really study hard in school, knowing that Open Dreams is here to support them. We pray the government should provide more support like the Anglophone crisis. We cry every day about students who are not going to school. So we pray every child should have an opportunity to thrive. And then we also pray that, the government should be more supportive of private initiatives like this one that drive innovation, that really help, people achieve a lot more. They are very supportive though, but, it can be taken to a higher level.
And that's it for this edition of The Inside. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for staying with us.